N.E.R.D. is
N.R.D.
N.R.D.
National Rifle Dissociation.
Yeah.
It's where you're out of your body
N.E.R.D.
and you're shooting.
N.E.R.D. is a hip-hop group or funk group or rock band. It depends on how you
It's
view
basically
them.
Pharrell's rap posse before he was Pharrell and made Happy for Despicable Me 2.
I like your description of it.
That's what it is. This was Pharrell's attempt at like some sort of hip hop. I would almost call it. There's some like punk elements even, just like Pharrell's attempt at making a music group that wasn't him solo.
Okay, it was Pharrell's attempt at a boy band.
Essentially.
Yeah, but it's headed
Notable
by...
members include Pharrell and Pharrell's hat.
Yeah, no, it's Pharrell, Chad Hugo, and what's his name? I always forget.
Chad Kroger.
Shay Haley. I always forget his name because he really doesn't matter. Pharrell Williams, Chad Hugo, also known as the Neptunes, their production team. And what's really, really weird about this project is it's only really produced by Pharrell. Like, Chad Hugo has little involvement in it, it feels like. This seems like Pharrell just wanting to do a hip-hop album with a bunch of features, so he calls it N.E.R.D.
I think he just wanted to bring back N.E.R.D almost because they were in the past.
Yeah, I don't know. I know this is going to sound completely stupid what I'm about to say, but it gives me a vibe like Pharrell's version of almost like Gorillaz. Not because I think of quality-wise. Actually, no, it's pretty quality-wise, too. But I feel like he just wanted to have a bunch of features on there and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This album, this new N.E.R.D. album, I'm not a N.E.R.D. fan. I've never really been. This is my first N.E.R.D. project. I've never listened to any of their previous work, so I have no idea what the previous work sounds like. So that's not what I'm judging it off. I'm judging it off how consistent it sounds and how everything else sounds. But so I have no frame of reference for what an N.E.R.D. project should sound like. So that's not how I'm going to be reviewing it. At least personally, I have no idea if you ever listened to N.E.R.D. project.
I have, yeah.
Does it sound similar?
No.
I assume so.
I mean, when I said punk elements and you gave me that like weird look, I mean, you listen to like some of the earlier stuff.
Oh, you mean on previous projects? I thought you were talking about this project.
No. On previous projects, there were more punk elements. There were more.
That makes sense.
There were more guitar licks. There were more hard hitting percussion. Like this is essentially like just a Pharrell project. If this is not N.E.R.D. as I knew N.E.R.D.
What I want to say is this album kind of operates in two frames of reference. One is really, I want to say, fun and exciting hip-hop. You got tracks like Lemon, Rollin' Sevens, and Voila. I don't know why I can't pronounce that. I can't read.
I took French diction. Allow me. Voila.
So that's the first frame of reference, kind of this exciting hip-hop. Second frame, I want to call it just like Pharrell Williams girl B-sides. You got tracks like Lightning, Fire, Magic, Prayer, Secret Life of Tigers, and ESP that just literally sound like cuts off a girl. They just sound like lost cuts. Now, I gotta say something. This album, I don't hate any of the tracks. There's definitely tracks I like more than others. And I think the worst that this album has to offer is just kind of meh. I don't think there's any terrible tracks on it.
No, for sure.
I think, though, for sure, the worst tracks are the ones that kind of operate in the Pharrell Williams girl B-sides category. ESP and Lightning, Fire, Magic, Prayer, obviously, not only are they two of the longest songs on here, but they just go on, and they really don't have anything unique to say, and they're not as exciting as Lemon or 1000. They literally have nothing interesting to say whatsoever, and they kind of just roam on for a bit. They're not like unpleasing to listen to, but they're just like, they just really don't have anything to say, and they just kind of go on for a bit too long. I do think the second half on ESP, when it breaks down, it's pretty good. I think Pharrell Williams is able to save that a little bit, but it doesn't save it to the point where I think the track's like good. I think it's still meh. But the bad thing about this is that when this album does go into this really exciting form of hip hop, it's just fantastic. Like Lemon, amazing. Voila with Gucci Mane is surprisingly
really weird.
Great, it's really weird how much like Gucci Mane like fits in being this like really corn dog kind of goofy style, and then Wale at the end is like that's probably the track part of the track I
I
like the
mean, when it
least.
just like switches styles completely
Yeah.
to like calypso.
I think it fits a bit. I'm not gonna say it's like great, but I think it fits kind of the frame of reference of the track and the frame of reference of the album, of how it switches the genres a lot. But I like it. I personally like it. And then you got Rome Sevens, which
With the boy,
Andre 3000.
Andre 3000.
I think the second half of the track, first of all, the hook on it with Pharrell Williams just going run, 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 seven, just kind of infinitely going,
Yeah,
just
my favorite
muttering.
part is when he goes 30 hours.
Different track, different album, different artist.
No, it's the same one.
I like the hook of it. I think it kind of the first half kind of goes on a bit too long, but when it goes into Andre 3000 on the second half, instantly redeemed. I think Andre and Pharrell work fantastic together. I think Andre's verse at the end is great. I really like it. And then even like Kites,
Oh, may I make a note about Kites?
yeah.
Backing vocals include A$AP Rocky and Mary J. Blige.
Yeah, no, A$AP Rocky's
They're
at the
both
beginning.
on
Yeah. A$AP Rocky at the beginning is really strange to me because he really doesn't have anything.
He's just like,
Yeah. I don't know why he's there. It's
he's
weird.
just hanging out, man. He's hanging out in the studio, like eating some Cheetos, and I'm like, yo, Ghostface. I mean, A$AP.
But yeah, I feel like the beginning with A$AP Rocky kind of talking and then Pharrell's verse, especially with like the weird vocal sample they have at the very beginning, I do not care for. But when it switches into Pharrell's second verse on Kites, followed up by Kendrick, and then followed up by MIA, I think it's good. I think like it saves the track. That track could have been terrible if it continued down like the first minute of it. If it kind of stayed in that point of view, I think
sure.
this track needed that switch up. And then weirdly enough, one of the tracks that I did like that didn't kind of operate in this like Pharrell Williams kind of like girl B-sides point of reference is, I hate this, I'm going to say this and it's going to sound dumb, but the track Lifting You with Ed Sheeran, I actually like that.
It's a catchy song.
I think Ed Sheeran on the hook doesn't overstay his welcome, and his vocals like match kind of the mood of the track, and I usually don't care for anything that's kind of reggae influenced. Usually don't, but for this it fits weirdly enough, and I don't know why. Like I think this track is really, really catchy, and it kind of just works in its own unique way. I think nothing else was bad about it. There's no bad songwriting, there's no bad performances, and everything kind of molds and kind of gets it through to where it needs to go. And the catchiness saves it. I think on this album, the main problem is that it just doesn't know when to end sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Some of these tracks drag on for forever.
ESP,
Lightning
Fire,
takes
Magic Prairie.
forever.
It's just like they don't know when to end, or the second gear is so much better than the first that like what's the point of even having the first gear? I know you kind of want these like slow build-ups, but like as we learned from the last Queen of the Stone Age album, these slow build-ups can like fuck you over if you don't like have anything to like show for it. If you don't have anything good at the end of the slow build-up, what's the point of it? And I think ESP and Lightning Fire Magic Prayer just kind of take forever, and they shouldn't really be there. Actually, if you got rid of them, I feel like this album would be fine. I think this album did not need those two tracks to be there, and I feel like they would have gone along a lot better. At least with Secret Life of Tigers, even though it may be kind of like one of the weaker tracks on the album, it's only like 3 minutes, and it doesn't really overstay his welcome. And I think it fits.
I think the length of Lemon was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exactly what I want it to be.
Shout
Never
out to
felt
the
like
people,
it was.
people.
Shout out to the people. People. I get it how I live it. And this ain't acidic. It's just your eyes get acidic. I think best tracks on the album, I would have to say, would have to be Lemon and Don't Do It with Kendrick.
Yeah.
I would have to say biggest gripes with the album, Deep Down Body Thirst, I think would have sounded 20 times better if it was sung by 2000s era The Strokes.
It's just a weird thing to say.
Seriously, go back and listen to it and just imagine it. Imagine the Strokes performing this song, and it will sound 20 times better.
Oh, now I'm gonna.
You
listen
have
that.
to.
Okay.
You have to.
Like Last Night era Strokes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay. I would say Last Night era Strokes, but also a little bit of. Do you remember Oblivious from their last like EP that they put out?
Oh, like the
Future, Present, or whatever.
I don't.
Yeah, it reminds me of a lot of Oblivious, but also like the Last Night era Strokes, which is the best Strokes, I will have to say. But other main gripe with the album besides like the songs just being too long and dragging out, as I think that all too often the songs need to be saved by a feature.
Yeah, Gucci Mane saves Voila, I would say, or no, he's the best part of Voila.
And like sometimes I think features in a sense should be the best part because you look at how Gorillaz operates, you know.
That's the whole entire niche.
Oh, for sure, for sure. But Damon Albarn can sustain a track by himself. You look at like Busted and Blue, that's all him.
Probably the best moment, one of the best moments of
On Humans.
Humans.
It was amazing. And he could sustain that track all by himself. Pharrell, I know for a fact, can sustain a song by himself. Because he wrote Happy. That's the country's
And that song's
national
24
anthem.
hours, right?
Okay, I will say, like, when songs are catchy and they're played all the time, usually I get tired of them. But there have been two songs I've never gotten tired of, no matter how much I hear them. One is Happy, and the other one is Broccoli by Drum.
I was hoping it was One Night by Little County.
No, even I sometimes get tired of One Night. I never got tired of Broccoli, ever. I never got tired of hearing Happy, ever. Like,
It's weird.
I know. So I'm saying, like, I know Pharrell can sustain a track. I don't understand why he couldn't sustain it on this project. I think that Don't Do It, it was starting to get really tiresome until Kendrick came in. And I think that he completely saved the track, and ultimately it ended up being one of my favorite tracks. Andre 3000 completely
Saved
redeemed Roll 'em
yeah.
Sevens.
I will
like,
admit that.
I think that sometimes the track was in dire need of saving by a feature.
And on Kites, I will admit, Pharrell's second verse
Mary
kind
J.
of...
Blige and A$AP Rocky,
Yeah, definitely.
they made this track.
But Kendrick's verse brings you... I don't know. Kendrick's verse actually, like, brought it back even more after Pharrell's second verse on Kites. Like, the second verse helped, and then Kendrick's second verse, like, brought it out of the mud, like, even more. So, like, I definitely understand. And I hate to say this, but you're right. Like, this is right, but, like, I would hate... I don't know what Lifting You would sound like without Ed Sheeran's, like,
Right.
really high-pitched vocals
Right,
on it.
thank you. This is I think you made a good statement saying this is a Gorillaz album, but with different feature. This Pharrell's version of a Gorillaz album. But I think that, in a sense, Gorillaz albums thrive because they use artists that are not super popular. And so Damon Albarn can easily influence, or not influence, but that makes them sound bad. But Damon Albarn can easily mix styles and mix influences.
Because there's
with
no
these
expectations.
artists. Because there are no expectations. They don't have a set sound. Benjamin Clementine now has a set sound for me, but he worked so well with the Gorillaz and worked so well with their style. De La Soul has always had a set sound. Like, you look at, 3 Feet High and Rising or De La Soul is Dead. Like, those are classic albums, and they each have their own, like, very unique kind of clowning around style. But they work so well with Gorillaz style because not a lot of people, like, know them. There's not a lot of egos to get in the way. If you look at people who have egos, you look at this album. Gucci Mane, Rihanna, I almost said A$AP Rocky, but, like, he's not even part of the album. I get so stuck up on that.
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran, for sure. People know Ed Sheeran's sound.
Yeah.
People, like, know... I mean, even Kendrick, I wouldn't say ego getting in the way, but I think people know Kendrick's style, and people know his voice, and know his flow, and know just what makes him tick. And so when I think that, like, Pharrell gets on a track with these people, or with these artists...
There's huge expectations.
There's huge expectations,
Gucci
and the
Mane...
styles don't flow. They don't mix as well, Pharrell's verse and Kendrick's verse on Don't Do It, they are one cohesive track, but they don't seem like cohesive verses. I was talking about Boogie earlier, where everybody's standing around one mic and they're all feeding off of each other. And I think that's part of what makes Boogie great, is that everybody's feeding off of the energy and feeding off of the flows of everybody else. It sounds like one continuous voice that's just going through the entire track, but it's everybody gets mixed in. That's what makes Boogie so good. But every track on here is in a sense like Boogie, or could be like Boogie, but nobody bounces off of each other.
It's hard to incorporate everyone in, but like one thing I want to mention, we do know what all these people sound like, but that could also like work in the benefit of the album, because I knew when I saw Ed Sheeran on the track list, I was not gonna like it. I was not gonna like it one bit, but I was pleasantly surprised when he had like a different style of performance. Same thing with Gucci Mane. I thought that was gonna be utterly terrible, especially with Wale on it. I thought that was gonna be terrible, because I thought Gucci Mane was actually gonna rap. But no, he comes in with these kind of like goofy style that he kind of does occasionally, but on this, like, Pharrell highlighted in a way that made it fit. But again, I can understand why like some of these people don't fit in. Or at least there's so many styles. Don't. Again, I talked about this album.
So many styles.
Again, I talked about this album incorporates on these two frames of reference. You got the kind of like this fun hip hop, and then you got this Pharrell Williams B-sides. And they clash.
You reminded me of. I saw a tweet the other day that said only Pharrell could get Kendrick and MIA on the same track, and I was like, I thought that was cool when I first read the tweet, but I went and listened to the track and I thought, maybe there's a reason they're not on the same track.
No, it's anyone with $2 million can get Kendrick and MIA on the same track.
Basically,
okay,
but like they're not similar flows.
Yeah,
they're not similar artists. Maybe they don't deserve to be on the same track.
And you're completely right at that end. I feel like MIA operates such on a different level than Kendrick. Kendrick comes in with these like really hard bars, and MIA comes in with this like really different style that would probably only really work and can really be highlighted in her type of music. And on this, she doesn't look as good as Kendrick, but she fits in okay. Like, it still fits, but it's just not as well as it could be because she's not highlighted in the way. And that's the problem with when you have features and you want to have a couple of features, or you want your entire album to be features. You gotta have to blend them into the album and incorporate them.
You have to think of who would sound good, and who would bounce off of each other's energy, and who would bounce off of each other's flow. Remember when we made like our own rap albums, like who we would have featured on what tracks? Yeah. Like that took a lot of work because we had to think about like who would sound good with who on what track.
And again,
but like if you told any like average person on the street, like come up with your best rap album, they'd be like, yeah, I'd have Jay-Z and Tupac and Gucci all in the same track because I love those guys. And I'd be like, it's not gonna work. Yeah. It's not gonna work at all.
And again, brings us back to Gorillaz. The reason I didn't like Humans, Dana Albarn didn't have no idea how much of what feature he wanted throughout the entire album. The placement of them, I felt off. There's just so many that he kind of got lost in it. And at times you couldn't tell there was either too much or too little of Albarn, and he got mixed in with his features. The features kind of almost broke the album in a sense.
It's like the people that came up to feature on Champions almost broke Kanye's platform.
We can stop using that joke.
No, that's such a good joke.
Okay, let me explain it. Okay, so during Kanye's tour where he had the floating stage, he invited everyone that featured on Champions.
So there was like 6 or 7 people already.
And then he invited the entire 98 LA Lakers, and they broke the stage and fell on the ground.
No, they invited the entire crowd. He invited the entire audience to come up and join him on Champions. They filmed a human ladder, but then like once the entire crowd was on the platform and they had nobody to sing to and nobody to listen, the whole platform broke.
We gotta stop using that joke because I have to explain it every time we use it.
Funny.
Okay, final thoughts. I think this album is it's okay. There's some utterly fantastic moments on it.
Oh, for sure.
But there's also some weak moments. Again, nothing terrible. I don't think anything on this project is terrible. I think that the worst is just meh.
I thought Pharrell could do better than this. I'm slightly disappointed with him.
Yeah, that's true. I think overall I'm gonna give this like a 6.
Yeah.
I think that's
what I was gonna give it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty.
Okay, I've got a theory here.
What?
I think Pharrell's hat brainwashed him.
dude, I can't wait for the hat to feature on one of these tracks.
When is Pharrell's hat?
Did he have
gonna
a
feature?
and does he still wear that hat?
I don't know.
We need to figure this out. Let's do some research. That could be a good theory. Let's discuss that in a later episode.
I'm gonna tweet about that.
That's a theory.
This is my next
A game theory.
Next tweet.
Next tweet. Okay. So yeah, that wraps it up for N.E.R.D. And that wraps it up for N.E.R.D. Yeah, I definitely recommend checking out Lemon. Definitely recommend checking out Voila and 1000 or 1000 or whatever they call it. Okay, is it 1000 or 1000? How do you think they pronounce that?
I just call it 1000.
Because I don't know why I think it's pronounced.
Do you call Andre 3000?
No, but they I think since they call themselves N.E.R.D. that they would call it one, and the fact that they call it 1000.
They call it N.E.R.D. It's a backronym. They came up with the acronym after they came up with the name.
Yeah.